He thought once the papers were signed, it would be over. The alimony checks would go out each month, the court would be satisfied, and life would slowly move forward. It wasn't ideal, but it was manageable. Or so he thought. What no one warned him about was the second cost, the one that doesn't show up on a bank statement. The kind that creeps in late at night when the house is quiet. The kind that doesn't have an end date. Because long after the financial payments are made, some men realize they're still paying in regret. Not because they lost everything in court, but because they gave too much away without understanding what it would cost them later, emotionally, mentally, and financially. They agreed to things they thought were the right thing to do. They rushed to settle, stayed silent, to keep the peace, or trusted advice that wasn't built for their reality. And once it hits them, how deeply the decisions they made during divorce continue to shape their lives. The regret is heavier than any check they've ever written. In this video, we're breaking down 7 hidden reasons why some men don't just pay once, they pay twice. First with money, then with years of quiet, unresolved regret. Let's get into it. He didn't fight it. When the topic of alimony came up, he didn't argue, didn't push back. He felt guilty. Guilty for leaving, for not trying harder, for whatever role he played in the collapse of the marriage. So when his ex asked for more than what the law required, he agreed. He thought maybe, just maybe, this would smooth things over. Show her he wasn't trying to hurt anyone, that he still cared enough to be generous. Everyone told him he was doing the right thing. But here's what no one tells you. Doing the right thing in divorce often means doing the thing that costs you the most. Courts don't hand out medals for generosity. Your ex won't necessarily remember your kindness when things get tense later. And the extra money you agreed to pay, it doesn't come with a receipt for gratitude. It just leaves your account every month, while the regret builds up in silence. He didn't realize that alimony isn't just money. It's time, energy, and freedom. And when you give more than you're obligated to give, hoping it buys peace, what you often get instead is resentment. Not from them, from yourself. Because when that monthly payment starts interfering with your new life, your future plans, or your sense of fairness, you start questioning why you gave so much in the first place. And that's when it hits. The generosity you thought would protect you is the same decision that keeps pulling you backwards. He just wanted it over with. The arguments, the stress, the meetings, he was drained. So when the paperwork hit the table, he didn't comb through every detail. He skimmed, nodded, and signed. His lawyer said it was reasonable. She said she just wanted to move on. And in that moment, so did he. But settlements, made in exhaustion, often come with consequences that last years. He thought agreeing quickly would bring peace. Instead, it bought him a monthly reminder of everything he didn't fight for. He didn't realize that the alimony terms he accepted in one bad week would shape the next 10 years of his financial life. That the rushed decisions, how long he'd pay, how much, what counted as income, were now locked in. And that undoing any of it would take more time, more money, and more legal battles than he ever expected. He thought settling early would save him from more stress. But what it really did was delay the pain and spread it out over the long haul. Because here's what most men don't know. When you sign too soon just to get it over with, you're not avoiding a fight. You're agreeing to live inside one, quietly and for a long time. And once that check starts hitting your account month after month, with no end in sight, the weight of what you gave away too easily starts to settle in. He didn't read the fine print. Somewhere in the stack of legal jargon was a phrase he barely noticed: indefinite support. It sounded formal, maybe even flexible. He assumed it meant until she got back on her feet, or found a new job, or maybe just a couple of years. What he didn't realize was that indefinite can mean exactly what it sounds like: forever. He had no idea that unless she remarried or the court granted a major modification, those checks would never stop. Not when he retired. Not if he lost his job. Not even if she moved on and started a whole new life with someone else. And here's where the second payment begins, not in dollars, but in years stolen from his future. Because every plan he had, downsizing, moving to a quieter town, taking a risk on a business idea, even starting a new family, suddenly had to fit around that monthly obligation. There's nothing more gutting than realizing you still have to fund a life you're no longer a part of, while yours keeps shrinking to make the math work. And the worst part? He agreed to it. Not because he was tricked, but because he didn't know what questions to ask. No one told him that in some cases, alimony doesn't fade with time. It follows you. Long after the emotions have cooled, long after the marriage feels like a distant memory, the payment still hits. Steady, relentless, quietly draining the years you thought were finally yours. That's when the regret sets in. Not over the marriage ending, but over not understanding what he really signed up for. He thought time would take the sting away. That once the dust settled, once both of them had moved on, the tension would fade. The payments would feel routine. Life would find a new rhythm. But what he didn't expect, what nobody warns you about, is how deep resentment can quietly grow over time. At first, it's just a twinge. Seeing her take vacations while he skips weekends out to make the numbers work. Watching her post pictures from a new relationship. Knowing he's still funding the life she's now sharing with someone else. Hearing about promotions, new furniture, dinners out, while he's budgeting to cover monthly support. And with every check, the question gets louder. Why am I still paying for a life I'm not part of? Because this isn't about jealousy. It's about fairness. And when the court-ordered generosity starts to feel like a one-sided punishment, that's when regret hardens into something heavier. He expected the payments to be a temporary reminder of the past. Instead, they became an ongoing symbol of imbalance, proof that walking away didn't free him. It just changed the shape of the weight he carried. And the cruel part? Everyone else seems to think he should be over it. But he's not, because resentment doesn't arrive all at once. It builds, slowly, quietly, until one day he realizes he didn't just lose a marriage, he lost his sense of peace. And the cost of getting it back is still coming out of his account. He listened to the wrong voices. Friends told him to just move on. Lawyers said not to make it messy. Family urged him to be the bigger person. So he bit his tongue, signed what they told him to sign, and stayed calm when everything inside him was screaming to push back. And for a while, he believed them. Believed that taking the high road would protect his sanity. Believed that not fighting was a sign of strength. But months later, when the checks kept coming and the silence around him got louder, he started to wonder, where are all those voices now? They'd told him to let it go. What they didn't say was that he'd be the one left holding all the consequences. That feeling of being alone in the fallout, of carrying the weight of a decision everyone else cheered on, but no one else has to live with. That's when regret hits the hardest. Because it's not just about the money. It's about realizing you made life-altering choices based on pressure, not clarity. And the worst part? The people who told him to compromise and be generous were long gone when the emotional debt came due. That's what they never tell you. It's easy for others to encourage sacrifice when they're not the ones paying for it. But when you're the one who has to wake up to the consequences every single day, the regret doesn't feel noble. It feels permanent. He thought it was just a payment, a number on paper, a monthly transaction, something he could manage. But what he didn't realize, what most men don't, is how deeply alimony reaches into every part of your future. It doesn't just come out of your bank account. It carves into your plans, your freedom, and your ability to start fresh. At first, it was manageable. He adjusted his budget, cut a few corners, told himself it was temporary. But over time, the weight grew heavier. He had to delay retirement, pass on job opportunities that didn't offer enough, second-guess every big purchase, not because he couldn't afford it, but because he had to factor in that one fixed cost that never went away. Then came the bigger hits. He couldn't qualify for the home loan he wanted, couldn't take the leap on a small business he dreamed of starting. Even thinking about remarrying came with hesitation, because the financial obligation didn't just limit him, it followed him. And that's when the regrets surfaced, not just for the dollars lost, but for the life plans quietly dismantled. The slow erosion of confidence. The quiet realization that while his former partner moved forward freely, he was still tethered to a deal that kept pulling him backward. Alimony wasn't just about what he paid. It was about what it prevented. And no one told him how far that reach would go, until it was too late to pull his future back together. He didn't expect to feel worthless. Not at first. He thought he was just doing what needed to be done, meeting his obligations, moving forward, starting fresh. But as the months passed and the payments kept going out, something shifted inside him. It wasn't about the money anymore. It was about what it represented. Every check felt like a reminder that his role had been reduced to a transaction. That years of sacrifice, effort, loyalty, and love had been boiled down to a dollar amount. He wasn't a father. He wasn't a partner. He was just a payer, and that slowly chipped away at something he didn't expect, his sense of identity. He started questioning his value, not because he lost the marriage, but because he felt discarded afterward. Like everything he once contributed could be replaced. Like the life he helped build moved on without him, and all he had left was the responsibility to keep funding it. He tried to stay strong, but strength is hard to hold on to when your worth feels tied to a court order, when no one sees your sacrifices, but everyone expects you to keep making them. He looked in the mirror and didn't see the man he used to be. He saw someone who gave everything and got labeled as the ex with an obligation. That's the part nobody talks about. The emotional weight, the erosion of dignity, the slow disappearance of self-worth. Not because of what he paid, but because of what the payments made him feel like. And once that feeling settles in, it's not just alimony he's paying. It's the cost of becoming invisible in his own story. He thought the hardest part would be writing the checks. But what really broke him wasn't the money. It was everything that came after. The quiet regret, the sense of being erased, the realization that what he thought was a clean break was actually a slow bleed, financially, emotionally, and mentally. He paid once in alimony, and again, every time he questioned his worth, every time he held back from starting over, every time he looked at his future and saw limitations instead of possibilities. That second payment? It's the one no one warns you about, and it lasts longer than any court order. This isn't about bitterness. It's about awareness. Because the truth is, most men aren't taught how to protect themselves emotionally during divorce. They're told to pay up, be quiet, move on. But they're not told how deep the damage can go when they hand over too much, too fast, for the sake of peace, or guilt, or pressure. So if you're facing this situation, stop and think. Not just about what you're paying today, but what it might cost you tomorrow. The way you settle, the terms you accept, the silence you keep, those decisions echo. And once they're made, they don't just follow your bank account. They follow you. Protect your future, not just from court orders, but from the kind of regret that money can't fix.